Here.
Meskel.
Here.
Parkinson.
Here.
It's quorum.
Stephen wanted us to make sure that they knew that he was at the CO.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If I could have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So
Or a second?
Second.
Meskel.
Aye.
Strack.
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye.
Parkinson.
aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Do we have any public comments? Alrighty. Board reports, if any. Last day of school. I don't have anything myself. Anyone have anything they want to share?
Since we had a nice going away function for, and the end of year thing at the park on Saturday, attended that. It was good to see. Actually talked to a possible board interest person, Mr. Mackey. I haven't heard anything yet. You looked at him, I think.
Sean Maggie?
Yeah.
He was one of the coaches? Yeah. Okay.
Went to Music in the Parks with Frederick. My daughter is in the band, and it was excellent. Just very proud of our band program and teachers.
Superintendent's report?
Well, our groundbreaking for the solar panels will be on June 14th, 11 o'clock in the back of Frederick School. So anybody who would like to participate in that, we're going to have hard hats and shovels and get ready to do that first dig. As Stephen mentioned, today was the last day of school. Lots of cool activities going on in each of the buildings. Our extended year days starts Heather Friday, right?
Yes, Friday through July 3rd.
And then our regular academy starts Monday, and the program. So we don't have much of a break between the end of school and summer school. Let's see. I think that's about it for now.
All right. Thank you. Do we have any committee reports?
The diversity committee met last week. Our goal was to find some times to meet this summer. So we're meeting June 27th, July 18th, and August 6th from 10 to 12 at Frederick School. Our first meeting will be looking at district policies and then looking for plans for professional development throughout the school year.
Okay.
I attended that meeting also. I was really impressed with what they're doing and how they're organized and whatever. So you can really be a very good committee, I think.
Okay.
And the other committee we have not met.
Right.
I'm curious if there'll be any, I guess, sharing between that committee and the SEO PDT.
Yes, but not the first meeting that we've got. No. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Move on to the consent agenda. If I could have a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda, including hang on there, including the addendum to the personnel report.
Second.
Any questions? Okay.
Parkinson.
Aye.
Strack.
Aye.
Meskel.
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye.
Motion carries, and we do have a few action items. First, if I could have a motion to approve the student lunch increase of 5 cents.
I'll move.
Second.
Are there any questions? Okay.
Weedman.
Aye.
Meskel.
Aye.
Parkinson.
Aye.
Strack.
Aye. Motion carries. Next, if I could have a motion to approve the student milk increase of 15 cents.
I'll move.
Second.
Are there any questions? Okay.
Strack.
Aye.
Parkinson.
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye.
Meskel.
Aye.
Motion carries. If I could have a motion to approve the waste management contract.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions?
I missed the last meeting.
Oh, right.
Can you just update a little bit on that? What the end result was from
before we started on that?
The increase is going to be the 5%. They took into account, obviously, the year of 0% increase, which on their part technically was supposed to be a 3% increase, according to what we had in the contract. So we're still coming out ahead of the game. 5% is still a favorable price for the district. It's fantastic when you compare it to our original bid compared to where the other vendors came out. So.
Okay.
Strack,
Aye.
Parkinson,
Aye.
Meskel,
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, if I could have a motion to approve the Frederick School Bus Project?
I move.
Second.
Questions?
I do have questions of Tom. What was this that you gave me?
Well, I came up with a couple of alternatives. First of all, we all agree that you can't continue another year with that. The cars that assemble on Frederick Street, Avenue, whatever. The question is, how do we deal with that? A couple of the alternatives I gave is recognizing that anytime I've checked, there's at least 50 blank spaces in the big parking lot just southwest of the district office. And one of the drawings that I put together, again, this is a concept, but it shows how the buses to be reconfigured. There's plenty of spaces there for the buses in the design that I have there. And the cars would come in, they'd be off Frederick, and they would pick up the kids near the district office. I've got in the sketch that shows that area. The other one is remarkably simple. It involves just having a one-way road between the northeast corner of the big lot to the loop where the parents like to put their cars to pick up their kids, and I can understand that because there's a roof there. In inclement weather, that'd be a good place to pick up your children. This road is probably about 50 feet long, has to be one lane, and would only be open at the time that the parents pick up their kids. I know some other schools that have done that in near districts where I've worked. So I gave a couple alternatives there. Personally, it's money that we don't have that we would spend. We're talking, I think, at least $130,000, but we don't know. I like the idea that we put in the full-day kindergarten. I would hate to have to yank that back in a year or two. I really like the idea that we're going solar. All those things cost money. We had to modify our budget by all of us signing last week or last meeting. So as a matter of fiscal responsibility, I looked upon other ways of solving this problem. I think I presented some good alternatives, and so I will be voting no.
Any other questions or comments? I think, well, I thought, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we do have the money for it. That's because it's in the capital projects budget.
Our operations and maintenance fund balance is over 100% now. We've been going through a period, probably starting back to the air conditioning projects, maybe even a little bit before, where we've got a 10-year plan where we can see projects slowly taking away some of that fund balance, but at this point in time, it's not threatened. And by the time we actually use fund balance, it'll be the time when our bonds actually come off of the books. So there's some alternatives to consider there as well.
And I don't think there's any impact on all-day kindergarten either.
Yeah.
Say that again, I'm sorry?
There's no impact on all-day kindergarten either, is there?
With the Frederick School busing?
Yeah.
This comes out of operations and maintenance, so this is it's a different fund.
They're two separate funds, so. Okay, are there any questions or anything? Okay.
Okay. Strack,
Aye?
Parkinson,
Aye.
Weedman,
Aye.
Meskel.
No.
Motion carries. And lastly, motion to approve the final public school calendar for 2017-2018.
I'll move.
I'll second. Are there any questions? This is just the,
Right, it's just to say this is exactly the days the students attended this year with the addition of the snow day and.
For the record.
Right, for the record.
for the state, yeah. Okay.
Meskel,
Aye.
Parkinson,
Aye.
Strack,
Aye?
Weedman.
Aye.
Motion carries. Update on the solar project. Sort of already had that, I guess.
We did,
Right.
so, I'm sorry I jumped in there.
That's all right.
Yeah, so the project will, hopefully will start some tomorrow.
Yeah, the plan right now is that we should be seeing some work even as early as tomorrow on that. They've already come out and done a little bit of work with landscaping, clearing out some of the space around Frederick School. So looks like we're on pace for that. As Dr. Krell already said, there's going to be the ribbon cutting or the groundbreaking ceremony on June 14th that we're looking forward to. We also had a finance committee meeting to discuss some of the financials of it. SREX finally came in to get us a better idea of what we're actually going to be getting back from the state and from ComEd for this. We've had a variety of projections over the course. Chris and I have looked at those projections, and the good news is we were anticipating about $44, and it looks like we're going to be somewhere between $44 and $48. So that looks wonderful for us. Talking with some of our finance counselors with State Bank of the Lakes, thank you. We're looking at about a $6 million debt certificate for 10 years at about 3.5%, with the ability to pay it off sooner if we have the additional money that comes in. And that total amount is not locked in, so it's not a firm $6 million. Chris and I are still doing a lot of research to try to make sure we're maximizing every single dollar we have in-house first before we resort to loans. And State Bank of the Lakes is well aware of that, and they're working with us on that. Overall, we're still looking positive for the project. We're looking at saving over $7.9 million over the course of 30 years, so it's still looking pretty wonderful for the district.
Okay. That's all good news.
Yes.
Any questions about that? Okay. New business, the preliminary 18-19 budget. Did I miss something? No.
That's me.
We need to move?
I was just getting comfortable too. It's good.
That's not fair. I can't start like that. What's that? Last time I tried that, it didn't work very well, so. Let me just use this.
Lean to lean.
Not bad. Better.
No, it's not bad. It's this one.
It's your last board meeting.
Was
Don't
that
go
for
fuck
summer?
now.
Okay. I won't. 1819, this is the preliminary budget presentation. I'm not even going to call it the tentative budget presentation because we're in the beginning of June and it's just a little too early to know. There's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of things that are changing and changing actually fairly rapidly. So, I'll just keep going while we're doing this. These would be the assumptions so far that we're using. Salary increases, average of 3.25% across the board. Ooh. Medical increases, we've had this recently, medical with PPO and the high deductible health plan, 5.6 and 5.8%, dental, nothing. You know that workers' compensation, we actually have a decrease of 9.2%. They use a 7-year average. That's part of the projector, yeah. They use a 7-year average. We had one of our years with a little bit more experience come off the books, which is fantastic. Workers' compensation goes down. Property casualty increase of 1.97%. Most of that is just a standard increase in general. That didn't necessarily change by having anything significant come off the books. CEDAW, once again, 4.47% increase. This is still preliminary. There's still a lot of moving parts in CEDAW as well. Transportation, we're actually looking at a decrease of 5%. And I know we had an increase of over 3% in transportation costs, but with our new hire, She's very optimistic, and 5% actually might even be a little bit low, that she can do some routing and some changes and some shared, and she's looking at saving potentially $300,000, which is fantastic. She is kind of a guru when it comes to all things busing, so we're happy to have her aboard. So now we get into natural gas and electricity. And natural gas from our IUPC, they're estimating, we're in the managed program, that it's going to be flat for this year. Electricity, they're saying about a 5% increase. Now, I put up their solar panels because solar panels would actually mean a decrease. I did not necessarily put that into this budget just yet. I just want to make you aware of it. We're still working on things like SREC payments. You know, it depends when the actual solar panels go online. If they go online a little bit later, we're going to miss the summer months. The winter months we'll still have. Probably be a little bit less in terms of savings, but all of that goes into the calculation. Solar panel project expenses, we're going to have the debt certificates. So you're looking at, the way it's kind of currently structured is the first year would just be interest payments only, and then the following year would be interest plus principal. I actually did put that in the budget. I put more of the expenses in and less of the revenues in. Why? I don't know, just to talk about it, I suppose. Additional staff we're looking at next year. Yeah, you know, I just kind of wanted to show, well, we'll talk about that later. When we get to the actual budgets themselves, each fund.
You weren't going to be here to talk about it.
I know. I'll leave that up to John. Sorry, John.
There you go.
Kicking the can down the road.
We also have, I will be here for you, John, I promise. We also have additional staff that we're looking at in terms of full-day kindergarten, and then additional EL staff as well, so those have been put into the budget already. Revenues, evidence-based funding, I did not put that into the budget because we don't know if there's, obviously something was signed that says they're going to continue on like they did in the previous year and expand by $350 million what goes to education. Last year we received a little bit over $400,000 in addition to what our regular evidence-based funding or evidence-based minimum was. If we get anywhere close to that this year, that will be fantastic. It's always yet to be seen. You always kind of want to wait till that first payment in August to make sure that this isn't just one of those, you know, I say we're going to do it and then, you know, something's going to happen where things are going to have to be prorated. Special ed personnel, there's a decrease of $380,000 in revenue. That's because the previous year, that revenue didn't come through, so they added it onto this year, which means next year we're going to go back to our normal rates, so it's a $380,000 decrease. Our operating levy revenue, there's an increase of $616,000, rate of 2.25%, which is great. Early childhood, grant funding, that's a moving piece right now. We don't necessarily know where we stand on that. There's new information coming in terms of what it might or might not be. There's an appeal process that might be in effect, so we will hold off and talking about that one tonight. SREC income, that's going to be the income from the solar panels. That's going to come over a 5-year period, which is very nice. It's a good positive amount. And the inverter rebate, which is actually going to be more upfront, and that they're anticipating that we'll get paid that potentially in the spring. So that's nice. Bottom there, some of the more significant changes, obviously evidence-based funding, full-day kindergarten, solar power, early childhood. Now I had the TRS 3% cap. I put that in. There was an email that we received originally that did not allude to the fact that it was for retirees only. So the entire district office was a little bit nutty because if there was a 3% cap on everything, that would have a significant impact on things like lane changes and all of that stuff. So I put that in, and then the secondary email came out after I had created the presentation. It's just for retirees. Fund by fund, education fund. And the highlight in the yellow is the surplus or deficit that is projected. One of the things I didn't talk about in the first slide, if you look at the other local, that 27% decrease in revenue, that's our full-day kindergarten tuition. You're looking at close to $390,000 that we received in tuition that we will no longer be receiving. So that's going to be a drop in that tuition. Now that tuition is going to drop for a year, and remember that the hope is, or what the anticipation is that our numbers are going to go up because instead of a 0.5, we're going to get it's full-day program, so each child is going to be counted as one, which means that our student population is going to go up, which means that our evidence-based funding should go up as well. So we're looking at 1 year where we're going to feel the effect of it, and then the next year, the thought is, or the way it should go, is that our state aid or our evidence-based funding will go up, and that'll go ahead and take care of that $390,000. Like I said, I did not include the additional evidence-based funding dollars, so if it is anything like last year, remember we were at 63%. Yeah, we were at 63%. 62% is Tier 1, so we're still towards the bottom of Tier 2. It could potentially be up to $400,000 based on what it was last year. So that would be a nice little increase to have. You switch down to the expenditure side, salaries, and I've got the 3.25% increase in salaries plus additional positions. And we have some retirees in there, so you're looking at about a 3.4% increase as of right now. That is a very fluid situation that can change. Resignations, new hires, or perhaps numbers increasing. Medical and dental increases, and our CLIC insurance increase and decrease, pretty standard at 0.72%. Nothing terribly significant, with the exception of if you go to between last year and this year, our tuition and our special ed costs, they've increased significantly. This is an increase that you're seeing all across Lake County. I'm sure it's happening in all the other counties as well. It's just something that it's out there. So over the past 2 years, there's been about an $800,000 increase in all of our tuition costs. So that's been something that we've been dealing with and something that we will continue to monitor. So if you look at the ed fund balance next year, it's negative $714,000. But don't forget, evidence-based funding is not in there.
That's right.
The SREX would go into the operations.
That's right.
Operations and maintenance. So, and don't forget, we're missing out on that $390,000 in tuition, something that should be corrected the following year. So it looks probably worse than it is, but remember, this is a preliminary, not a tentative budget. Here's our operations and maintenance fund. We decreased the levy by a little bit. We didn't have a roofing project like we did in the years past, so we didn't need to put the levy as high as it was. Our revenue in rentals went down a little bit too, not significantly. Well, $9,000 is a significant amount if you ask me, but in the grand scheme of a $50 million budget, and maybe that'll come back. We'll just have to wait and see. Most of it's based on the revenue that we receive from the Park District. Salaries with overtime, 1.38%. We actually had a retiree. We've had a couple people that are no longer with the district, so we've had some new hires come in that are coming in fresh. So overall, it's looking to be about a 1.38% increase. Their salaries were increased by 2.75% because they are part of the PSRP union. Same thing, increases in Blue Cross Blue Shield, normal cost of living for things like purchase services. So I did put in the reduction in electricity here of about $150,000. That might be heavy based on the fact that we're not going to get the summer months. I really want to get more, I'd like to get better numbers on that. And that's just going to come with time. That's going to be based on when the solar actually goes up and goes online. Then you see the 88.02% reduction in capital outlay. That's because we're not doing a roofing project. We're looking to spend $95,000. That's going to change because of the Frederick School parking lot. We'll have to put that in there as well. Didn't put that in there because it wasn't known at the time. Debt service payments. Those are the payments, the interest payments for the solar panels that I did put in. Non-capitalized goods are staying the same. So you're still looking at a surplus of about $16,000. And that is with a significantly reduced levy as well. Transportation, $121,000 surplus. The significant changes here are going to be the reduction in routes. So our purchase services, our vended services are going to, expenses are going to go down. Decrease the levy a little bit. We have a good fund balance in transportation. We don't necessarily need to carry that fund balance. Our salaries and benefits have gone up from $18,000 to $46,000. That's because we changed who was doing our transportation. Like I said, we have hired kind of a guru, and the guru is expected to save us about $300,000. So it's a very pleasant trade-off there. So we're looking at a surplus of about $121,000 right now. IMRF Social Security, this just gets tailored to basically all salaries. All it is your IMRF, your FICA, and your Medicare. So you'll see our balance here at $550,000 towards the bottom of the page. Last year, we're projecting to run a deficit. It's going to go down to $506,000. That's we're still well above that 25% threshold. You know, more of the money from the levy was shifted towards the education fund just based on the fact that we're going to see that deficit this year. Tort fund, there's only one product in the tort fund, that is our property and casualty insurance. It came in a little bit higher, $163,000. Based on the levy, you know, we're still funded at 90%. We have plenty of fund balance in here, so a loss of $1,111 is not a big deal. It is just that one product, so this fund is going to be pretty much maintain normalcy. Our debt service, this is all of the levies are done by the county. This is basically our principal and interest payments as part of our debt book, what we're paying back. Typically what they do is they have a 1% stop loss on there, which actually gives us a little bit of a surplus every year. So we're looking at a tiny surplus of $82,000 in this fund. And then our capital projects. So we did the amended budget at the last board meeting. The fiscal year 18 budget is going to have that $1.385 million spend. It's actually looking like it's going to be closer to $1.34 million. We just got the invoice today. So the last year, out of the capital projects, was going to be a deficit, or when I say last year, I mean this year. It's going to be a deficit of $1.3 million. That's part of the budget. That's part of the project itself. But on the flip side, the local revenue that we're going to receive, that's just based off of the interest. So we have roughly $4 million prior to the $1.3 million spend this year. That $67,000 is going to go down to about $47,000 if you're looking at interest payments to the district. Working cash is just our working cash. We generally levy close to the minimum, just to put a little bit in there. We don't want this fund to sunset on us. If it sunsets, then we have to go ahead and basically, I don't want to say abolish the fund is not the right saying, but if it sunsets on us, then all of the money would need to be transferred. We would have to stop the fund, and we don't want that to happen. So we always put about $25,000 in there, and then there's also interest payments that we receive just by having some fund balance and working cash. It is good for our cash flow situations towards the end of the school year when you get into those months, April, May. It's based on how our tax extensions work. We usually get our tax extension in June, usually in May. That's when we have our low point. It's good to have that in there for cash flow. All of this wrapped up into one nice sheet. You've got your revenue in the upper left-hand corner last year, and this is budgeted last year to this year's. So you can see our revenue is going down by $69,000. That's due to the decrease in tuition. And there was another significant, that's the decrease in tuition and the decrease also in the special ed private facility, the $380,000 that we're going to lose because it was doubled up this year. So it's going to be $69,000 decrease in revenues. Bottom left-hand corner is your expenditures. You can see that we're going to be spending less than $1 million, or $1 million less next year than we will be this year, but most of that is going to be because of the capital outlay for the solar project. If you take away that, then we're actually going to spend about $373,000 more. And then there, kind of on the right-hand side in the middle, you can see what everything wraps up to. Our revenues minus our expenditures in each of the funds. We're looking at about a deficit of $444,000 for the 2018-19 school year. Questions?
How are these figures altered by the bus project?
If we go back to the operations and maintenance fund, you'd be looking at roughly $120,000 to $25,000. That would have to go into our capital outlay. So about $125,000 overall impact. So instead of 444, you'd be looking at 569.
Mr. Mr. President, I don't know if this is the time or not, but would we be wise in giving the superintendent some direction as to how much of the total fee, half of which is supposed to be absorbed by the city or whatever, that we would allow her to spend, or what? Or just leave it open?
Well, we're going to have to come back to you with the bids, so you would have to approve or not approve them. So we aren't going to expend that.
It's based on the bids that are received,
Right.
so.
So we aren't going to expend that money without coming back to you for that information, with approval.
Okay. Do we want to give any guidelines or not?
Well, I don't know that we can outside of just giving the project parameters and the bid information for the vendors, correct?
I would be.
We can't say you can't bid more than X.
The hesitation that I would have in announcing something like that is the whole point of getting to the bid. It would be to allow bidders to give us what is their rock bottom price. And if I tell them, hey, this is what we have an appetite for,
Yeah.
chances are we'll see a lot of bids that are right at what that appetite is.
Yeah.
So
Good point.
I would rather wait and see what those bids are and then come back with a better idea of what we would recommend at that point. If that's
And remember, there's 3 different options there too. That was the high end. So.
exactly.
Right, yeah.
Well, do it right the first time.
Mhm.
Alrighty. Any other questions about the preliminary, not tentative budget? Thank you, Chris, for your final budget presentation.
Started out.
Final preliminary budget.
Started out kind of shaky there.
It was fine. Update on the law firm.
So in July of 2005, the Board of Education moved to Scariano, Himes, and Petrarca. That's easy for me to say. And I don't know who they were before, but at that time we had Lynn Himes for the first year. And then after the first year, the board requested someone other than Lynn Himes. So we got Kevin Gordon. And we've had Kevin ever since the last 12 years. He's gone through 3 or 4 negotiations with us. Last Monday, he left Scariano firm and is a partner now with Darcy Crea, who is a very well-known attorney in the DuPage area. Does do some work up in Lake County, and I know that her specialty is special ed, and Heather certainly would support the fact that she is very good with that. With that, though, Kevin, they're still do all attorney firm. It's not just special education. We can use Kevin in the new firm. We can stay with Scariano. We can use a little of Scariano, a little of Kevin. It's not something we have to only use one firm for. One of the things right now we use Scariano for definitely are the PTABs, because with starting the new firm, they don't have somebody that's an expert yet in PTABs. But we've certainly been very pleased with Kevin. But again, that's a board decision.
Yeah, I mean, we've had 2, pretty good negotiating sessions the past 2 times we've gone through that with him. We've always made good progress, and his familiarity with the district and the unions that we have, and our whole makeup really, I think, is a big benefit for us. So I think it would be, and we talked about this, where we could continue with Scariano with the PTABs for that part of it, because they're kind of in the middle of it anyway.
Yes, they are.
But then continue to use Kevin for, at least in particular for negotiations, just because of the success that we've had with that.
I did check with other attorney firms just to see what their costs are compared to what we're currently being charged. And Kevin's going to be charging us the same that Scariano did. There's no increase, and there's no increase with Scariano either. But the other firms that I checked with are all higher than what we're currently spending.
And so it's not something that we have to
No voting.
vote on or decide right now necessarily. It's kind of a situation where, as we have things that come up that require legal services, we can decide
Right.
who to use
Yep.
at those times.
I just want to make sure that, I'm honest with both Kevin and with Scariano, and say there are times we're going to be using you and this firm, and sometimes we'll be using
So we have the option if we deal with the Darcy firm, and we can choose Kevin. We would substitute,
Yeah.
okay.
Do we need a formal
No.
contract or anything with them?
Nope, I checked all that too. And if we wanted to use a third firm, we could. There's nothing that says we can. So that's where we are right now. with
And I
this.
don't know, I mean, we'll have negotiations coming up again, but beyond that and the property tax stuff,
We
What else
have,
do we
once in a
have?
while, we have things that we need to call them about, but
yeah.
we don't, our bills have been pretty low. The lowest they've been in years recently,
That's good.
yeah. Oh, they're
Keep them that way.
Plastic. Okay, any questions about that? Okay, future agenda items?
We'd like to talk at the next meeting about the after-school activity bus, to just have a discussion about it. Obviously, we'll get you an update on the solar panel. We also are going to want to talk to you about a pre-K playground. With the addition of all-day kindergarten, there's no direct access now for the pre-K children to get to the playground without going through a classroom.
Oh, okay.
Heather has written into one of the grants.
Which school is that at?
That's at Prairie View. Has written into the grant money for actual new equipment. Plus, in addition to purchasing this, we weren't meeting the requirements for a pre-K playground. The kindergarten they're too big in places, and so we're working with a couple of different gentlemen to see what it's going to cost. We're looking at different options. Whether we use take pieces of the existing kindergarten playground and put new in, just build a sidewalk or build a brand new playground. So we're looking at all the different options. So we'll want to discuss that at the next meeting.
Okay.
And
There's an option to move them to a different classroom so they do have direct access?
there are no more classrooms available. So how many classrooms do you have?
8, and then we use another classroom for our early childhood
Right.
assessment.
So, and there's just no more.
And we've just encroached deeper and deeper into the first grade thing. And in talking to Mr. Murray and putting kindergartners and first graders on the other side is problematic for safety and just inappropriateness and bathrooms and all that supervision and stuff.
Anything else we want to put on the agenda for next time?
We'll need to approve borrowing for the solar project.
Okay,
Right, yeah.
that would be an action.
NWEA map results by
Okay, yes,
subgroup.
we should be ready for that, yep.
Didn't I read something about talking about the various extracurricular activities, that type of thing, available to buildings? I thought I read that somewhere.
I sent you a list of all of them,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
yep. What was I going to approve? Borrowing. Okay.
Borrowing, yeah.
It's that somewhere.
Anything else?
Not that I can
Do you
think
have
of.
anything, John?
We just, at some point, we need to discuss having a policy committee meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so why don't I shoot some dates out? It's going to be hard, well, you'll be able to be back by 6:30, right?
Well, timing will depend on.
Okay, well, we'll send you everybody some dates, Kathleen.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, will you repeat the diversity committee dates? I didn't.
Sure, got them written right down here. June 27th.
I'll put it in my phone, okay. June 27th?
July 18th, and August 6th. And they're 10 to 12, all 3 dates at Frederick.
Thank you.
Are there any public comments? I don't think we need a closed session, so if I could have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Parkinson,
Aye.
Meskel,
Aye.
Strack,
Aye?
Weedman.
Thank you, everybody.